Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Restoring Hope. I'm your host, Curtis Smith. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And as always, a huge thanks to our community partners, Tesco, Shepherd Community Center, and Prime 47 downtown. Without the support of these wonderful organizations, we would not be able to be with you every Thursday night at 9:30 right here on WHMB TV 40. Well, as always, we have a great show for you tonight. And we have a very special guest tonight as well. Over the past several years, U.S. Congressman Jim Banks has become one of the most prominent figures in the national political landscape. Earlier this month, right before Election Day, Congressman Banks sat down with us in Fort Wayne. Here is our conversation with him. Congressman Jim Banks, thank you for sitting down with us. For those in the Indianapolis area that maybe don't know you as well as Northeast Indiana, your home, tell us a little about yourself. You're married, you served in the Navy, you've got 3 daughters. Tell us a little bit about your personal life.
Well, native of Columbia City, a small town between Fort Wayne and Warsaw. I still keep my home there today. I served in Afghanistan a few years ago, 6-7 years ago. Served in the State House prior to that. Ran for Congress 2016. Right when I got home from Afghanistan, my seat was open. And kicked off a campaign for it. The last 6 years have flown by. I've served in Washington now for 3 terms, just reelected to my 4th term to serve in Washington for 2 more years. My wife and I have 3 daughters, 13, 11, and 9, so pray for us. 3 girls at that age. It's
You're on
a lot
the
of
cusp
drama.
Of some crazy years.
Yeah, but we're so proud to serve. My family serves with me. They go to Washington with me. We serve as a family, and it's the honor of our lives to represent Indiana and Washington, D.C.
Speaking of serving in your family, your wife actually stepped in and served for you for about 2 years?
Well, when I was deployed to Afghanistan, I was a sitting state senator at the time, and my wife was elected by the precinct committeeman to fill the time of service while I was away. Indiana, it turns out, has a unique state law that when an elected official goes on active duty military orders like I did, you can be temporarily replaced. And in this case, my wife was elected to take my place. I'm told every day she was a lot better at it than me, and I believe it. She's extraordinary in her own right, and we take public service very serious. It's a calling for us. We believe that God called us to serve at such a time as this, and with the big issues facing our nation, facing our culture, we're both in it to make a difference. And when we look into the faces of our 3 daughters, we want America to provide them with the same opportunities that America has provided us.
Let's talk about the state of America. We're in a pretty political climate these days, and boy, there's a lot to love about America, but there are a lot of things that I know you would like to see change. What are some of the top things on your mind as we get into this next phase of life post-election here that we've got to work on, that we've got to change?
Yeah, I mean, the issues I hear about every day as I stump around Northeast Indiana is what inflation, gas prices have done to make it harder for families to make ends meet, just to put food on the table, to fill up the gas tank. What inflation has done is just cost the equivalent of 1 month's salary on average for every family in the state of Indiana. So it's like giving up 1 month of your salary. Most people can't do that. Right. So we have to, when the Congress goes back into session and with Republicans in the majority, we have a duty, we've been given an opportunity by the American people to solve the problems that matter most to the American people. But there's a lot going on out there. I mean, you look at, when I travel to communities like Bluffton or Kendallville or Angola, I hear about the drug epidemic in a way that I've never heard about before. I mean, more drugs affecting and impacting families and communities. Fentanyl manufactured in China being pushed over the southern border by the Mexican drug cartels and ending up in communities like ours, resulting in 300 Americans every single day who die of fentanyl poisoning. Fentanyl is now the leading cause of death of Americans who are my age. So that statistic is more than a stat or more than a number. It's real to most families that I talk to who have been affected by it, and we have to do more in the Congress to solve that, to address those issues, and I intend to be a leader in doing that.
Wow. So the economy, number one, drug issues, and I want to kind of set mental health aside for a second and talk about it in our second segment, but what else are you hearing from your constituents, the people out there as you connect and know this time especially, I assume you're hearing from and seeing so many people in this season. What else are you hearing from them?
Well, I hear a lot of just simply about what is America, what should it be, and what's happened to America. The decline of America over the past few years is something, especially for those of us who have worn the uniform, served our country. It's a shame to see America weakened to the point that it is from inside out. So, how do we restore America? How do we restore the greatness of America? I mean, I think that's a question that whether you're on the red team or the blue team or anybody in between, you should care about. I mean, this is the greatest country in the history of the world, and we need to restore it to what we all know that it should be. So that starts with fixing our economic issues, but it also has a lot to do with projecting American strength around the globe as a deterrent to our adversaries. I mean, I serve on the Armed Services Committee, and I see an awakened and a resurgent China that wants to dominate America and the rest of the world. Russia invading Ukraine. China, by the way, wants to take over Taiwan. You have North Korea threatening to do things again. Iran acting out. I mean, the world is a far less safe place today than I think that it has ever been in my lifetime. And a strong America is the best way to solve it. And whether it's solving problems at home and helping American families make ends meet and pass on the American dream to the next generation, or playing the role that America should play around the globe. I mean, I think a lot of people are struggling with that question. How did America get to where it is today, weakened, declining in the way that it is, and how can we get America back on track?
It's comforting as a Hoosier to know that we have a Hoosier who's playing such a prominent role in our national and our federal government. And you're taking on such a leadership role these days. You mentioned the Armed Forces Committee. I know you're the chairman of the Republican Study Committee. For those who don't understand what the Study Committee does, tell us a little bit about the committee and your role there and helping to shape kind of the national picture of the Republican Party.
Yeah, the Republican Study Committee, I've been proud to be the chairman of it, the leader of it for the last 2 years. I can only do it for one term, so I'm term limited and have to give it up. But I've loved every minute of it because it's the largest caucus in the Congress. There are 163 Republicans who are part of it. I lead a weekly lunch meeting, and we talk about policy. We talk about solutions to America's problems. We've worked really hard the last couple of years on my watch to draft the agenda for Republicans when we take back the majority, because it's not good enough just to beat the Democrats and take over the gavels in the majority. We have to have a plan. The American people have given us a charge, given us a duty to go solve the problems that face America. So we have to be ready to go with solutions. And the last couple of years, the Republican Study Committee has led the way on Capitol Hill to draft that playbook, the agenda for Republicans to roll out come January. And I've been proud to lead that effort.
Awesome. Jim, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for agreeing to have part 2 of our conversation. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Congressman Jim Banks. We're back with Congressman Jim Banks from the 3rd Congressional District in Indiana. Congressman, thanks for spending a few more minutes with us.
Glad to be here.
Mentioned briefly mental health, and obviously at Crosswinds Counseling, it is a huge concern for us. It's our main area of focus. And I know as a congressman, it's something that you see on the minds of so many Americans. What do you see as you talk to your constituents, and what do you think we need to do to help the mental health situation of our country?
Well, we have to do more, and our leaders in Washington, D.C. have to make this a primary mission of one of the issues affecting America. Coming out of the pandemic, mental health has been affected for so many Americans, for most Americans, in one way or another. At the same time, we have a drug crisis in America. When I go visit addiction organizations or facilities that are trying to help people treat addictions, there's sort of I often hear about whether it's the chicken or the egg. Does mental health cause people to become addicted to drugs, or is it drug addictions that are causing mental health issues? It doesn't really matter except for how they treat it. But at the end of the day, this is an epidemic that's affecting every family that I meet, every community that I visit. And we need leaders at the national level, at the state level, at the local level, who are providing solutions. So whether it's more support coming from Washington, D.C., or more leaders at the local level who are helping people address mental health and addictions. I know that what you all are doing here is so important to that equation of solving these issues at the local level, and I strongly applaud what you're doing here. But when I go back to Washington, D.C., I want to do what I can do more to help you handle this issue at the local level.
We talk so much and hear so much about the stigma has gone away, or it's getting better. Maybe it hasn't completely gone away, but a lot of people are more openly talking about their mental health struggles and their issues. Do you think that's true in Washington? Do you think that the stigma is lessening and more lawmakers are embracing the fact that this is a real problem for millions of Americans? We have to openly talk about it and do something about it?
Yeah, I believe the whether the stigma is still there or not, it's certainly not what it used to be. And we have leaders from on both sides of the aisle in Washington who want to do more to address these issues. But at this point, we need solutions. We need legislation. And as a new Congress begins in January, we have a duty to provide legislative support to support programs at the state and the local level. I mean, it's going to take leaders in Washington, the governor of Indiana, the state legislature, and leaders at the local level, mayors, county commissioners, law enforcement, healthcare leaders, all of us working together to address the major mental health and addiction issues that are affecting our communities. And I want to do everything I can. I welcome the feedback of anyone who's listening. Reach out to me and give me your ideas. Tell me what we can do at the national level to solve these issues, because as you've already said, I mean, this is something that I hear about everywhere that I go. I've held roundtable discussions just in the last few weeks in both Bluffton and in Auburn on these issues. I've traveled to different addiction treatment facilities and heard directly from those who are on the front lines, and I'm hungry for ideas, hungry for solutions, and want to be a leader to do what I can to support those who are on the front lines.
Jim, you mentioned both sides of the aisle, and as we go into this new Congress, I'm curious, how optimistic are you that in the new Congress, some political divisions, all the things that divide us, can be set aside, and that there can be some unity, there can be some collaboration, and that Congress and our government, even on a bigger scale, can truly come together and help Americans? Is there reason for optimism there? Because we seem so divided sometimes.
Well, the process, I believe, can work, and elections are wake-up calls. So this election gave Republicans a chance to be in the majority after we had one party control of Washington and the White House, the House, and the Senate. So I believe there is a hunger on the other side now, especially after the election was a reminder that the voters wanted something different. Now I think there is an incentive for a Democrat in the White House to work with a Republican majority in the Congress to work together to solve problems. I can't think of any problem that should provide more of a bipartisan opportunity to do something about it. But you take the border, for example. I mean, fentanyl coming across the vast majority of it, 90-something% of fentanyl is coming over the southern border. So what can we do at the southern border to shut off the access and the supply of fentanyl is flowing over the border? That's something that we should find bipartisan support to do, to find ways that we can block it. And then more support for treatment at the local level, too, should be something that should have broad bipartisan support.
And I'm curious, just from your personal perspective, of the semantics and the logistics of being a congressman. You've been in the role now for 6 years. You're entering a new 2-year stretch. I can't even imagine how exhausting it is to run for office every 2 years to try to keep your job. But you had to learn a lot in that first. What is the learning curve? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Is it your whole first 2 years? And then what have you learned over the last 6 years that you feel like sets you up well here as you move into this new term?
Yeah, this is what I love about the job. I learn something new every single day about a different issue or about the process, about my colleagues, and doing the job for 6 years. You get to know a lot of your colleagues, what's important to them, what's important to their districts. And if anything that I've learned over the last 6 years is that no one member of Congress can do something alone. That's not how it works. I mean, there are 435 of us in the House, and it takes a majority of us to pass anything. Right. And that means you have to work with others. And in this case, with a Democrat in the White House and a Republican-led Congress, it means that we will have to work together to solve problems, and that's something that over the last 6 years I've learned, sometimes the hard way, that you gotta reach out and build coalitions and work with others to pass legislation and address problems, and that 6 years of experience is going to lend itself really well to the next 2 years as I go back into the majority, back into a bigger position of influence to be able to get more done for Northeast Indiana.
Congressman Jim Banks, thank you so much for spending time with us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling. Well, tonight in our Counseling Corner segment, Jenna Garcia talks about something that becomes an issue for us in the Midwest every year. This time of year brings less sunshine, more cold air, and the holidays are right around the corner. All of that makes seasonal depression an issue for many people, and Jenna addresses that tonight.
Hello, I'm Jenna Garcia, licensed marriage and family therapist with Crosswinds Counseling. It's that time of year again. The seasons are changing, the trees, the weather, and even the coffee flavors at Starbucks have all shifted officially into fall. Many people look forward to the changing seasons, but for others, this can be a difficult time. Here in the Midwest, we deal with a big change in the amount of sunlight we experience each day. As we move from summer to fall and fall to winter, there's less and less sun, which has a big impact on our bodies. Sunlight plays a big role in how our bodies function. Our circadian rhythm or body clock is directly impacted by the sun. The happy hormones in our brain are affected by the sun, and our ability to go outside and exercise or run errands and even social situations are affected by the sun. Some people are affected by this change more than others and actually start to experience depression when the season and sunlight changes. If you notice that you start to have a low mood, less interest in things that you usually enjoy, low motivation, weight changes, low energy, or feelings of hopelessness, and these challenges are consistent for 2 weeks or more, it might be time to get some support. Here at Crosswinds Counseling, we want to work with you to find ways to deal with these challenges and support you in coping with seasonal depression. We're here to help. Give Crosswinds Counseling a call or visit our website to schedule an appointment.
Welcome back. Each week here on Restoring Hope, we spend a few minutes focusing on the word at the core of the title of our show, hope, in our Beacon of Hope segment. Tonight, Crosswinds business developer Sean Shepard reminds us of something we all need to be reminded of sometimes, that God always loves us and cares for us.
Hi, my name is Sean at Crosswinds. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your day. I wanted to share with you a story from my childhood. It makes me smile when I think about it. You know, when I was a kid, I'm old enough before social media was a thing. I remember in third grade, a young lady, she gave me a letter, and I hadn't received a letter from a girl at that point in my life, so I didn't know what to expect, and I read it, and it was a proverbial, will you go with me, yes or no? I hadn't planned on having a girlfriend prior to the moment of reading that letter, but I felt like it was a pretty reasonable offer. So I checked the box, sent it back to her, and she was my girlfriend for about 5 days. We didn't do much, nobody could drive. We would wave at each other and smile at each other. We sat by each other at lunch, and I remember the last day of our relationship, I gave her some of my tater tots. She had 8 and I gave her 4 of them, and I felt like that was a pretty big commitment for a third grader. But at the end of the day, she gives me a different letter, and I had the expectation that it was going to be, this is growing great and lovely, thank you for being such a nice boyfriend. What the letter said is, we can just be friends, thank you for being my boyfriend for the week. And we went our separate ways, and when I think about that, it reminds me of how God gets involved in our life, even when we don't expect it. Ephesians, there's so many examples where we're reminded how much God cares for us and how much God loves us, and I want you to know that God cares for you, and He's trying to be involved in your life. But unlike the third grade girlfriend I had, He'll never break up with you. He'll take you clear to the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. I think we all know that God never stops loving us, caring for us, but in our humanness, it's good to be reminded of that from time to time because we can be forgetful. Well, tonight, as our time comes to a close, we've spent time this evening talking about mental health and learning about Crosswinds Counseling as we do each and every week. In hearing about this organization, perhaps you think you might be a good fit for Crosswinds. Well, good news, Crosswinds Counseling is hiring. We need great women and men to join the organization and help us provide help to the many people who need it. If you're interested in pursuing a career at Crosswinds, you can visit crosswindscounseling.org/careers. All kinds of opportunities are there on the website. We have opportunities, in fact, here in Indianapolis, in Fort Wayne, and now in Dayton, Ohio. So please check out crosswindscounseling.org/careers to see all of those job openings. Also, perhaps you work with a company that could benefit from the services of Crosswinds Counseling. Through corporate counseling, Crosswinds partners with more than 70 organizations to help thousands of people get access to the counseling they need. You can learn more about the corporate counseling offering of Crosswinds by visiting crosswindscounseling.org. As we wrap up tonight, thanks to all of you for joining us. It's great to have you with us each week. Also, a big thanks again to our sponsors, Prime 47 Downtown, Shepherd Community Center, and Tesco. And of course, thanks to our friends here at WHMB TV 40. We'll see you next Thursday night on Thanksgiving, right here at 9:30. Stay safe and be blessed.